Okay, so we are live for the first Fourier LinkedIn Live broadcast. So, morning everyone. My name is Jean. I'd just like to take a few minutes to introduce myself and my guest. Like I said, for our first broadcast. With the lockdown now in its second week, we thought it would be a nice change of pace to maybe do something relevant that our candidates can watch and feel some sort of reassurance that we are on the same pinch as they are, and we're all working together to try and secure them positions after this is all done. So I'd like to introduce Caval Goodyear. He's my guest for today, and he is a seasoned specialty recruiter within the hospitality industry. So I'm just going to bring Caval up on screen here. So Caval, if you could maybe introduce yourself, that would be appreciated.
Happy to, John, and thanks for having me, man. Always fun catching up. You're working hard, huh?
Or hardly working, eh, mate?
Modest. But yeah, so thanks for the kind introduction. My name is Caval Goodyear. I've been in hospitality recruitment for the last 5 years now. Before that, I came from a operational hospitality background myself, primarily in fishing and chefing for about 12 years before I made the change over. Been very blessed, been very fortunate to meet great people and help a lot of people in my short time, this 5 years in the industry, and yeah, looking forward to many more. So,
If I can
to
maybe
what do
just
I owe
ask a
the pleasure,
question.
John? Mm.
Sorry, if I could just ask a question, Caval. Why did you switch over from being a like a kitchen executive or a pastry or a chef pâtissier or some one of those titles to being an actual recruiter?
Well, a big thing for me when I was lecturing a couple of years back is was the very definite lack that I saw in terms of career guidance with a lot of ex students and colleagues of mine, and also the students coming through. And I know that during my career, it was very much left up to my own devices, and kind of just hopping from one rock to another. So there was just in my limited experience and exposure at the time, I felt that there was a definite a lack in terms of developing that side of a young chef's career. So when the opportunity presented itself, and also owing to my educational background, which is not just in chefing but in the humanities as well, it just seemed like a great opportunity, and I've not looked back.
Okay, well, that's great to hear because obviously you know your stuff in hospitality, so we can rest assured that any questions that will be asked, you have the necessary knowledge to be able to give an in-depth and real answer that our candidates and clients will be able to understand and appreciate.
Thanks, John. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's for all of us to kind of chip in, because I think this is a tricky time as well, and I'm sure that's the reason for your call.
100%, that's exactly what it is. Okay, so Caval, my first question that I think is something that everyone is thinking about is what real impact or tangible impact has this 21-day lockdown period had on the hospitality industry specifically?
Well, I think the apparent effects are quite clear and obvious, and I think a lot of people have really been discussing it to no end and to death almost, in the last couple of days. I do follow a couple of influential people in terms of revenue management, and I get interesting statistics sent to me daily. The big one, obviously, how April, in terms of the hotel industry, has very much flatlined, but the projections, and I'm going to give you a bit of a history lesson if you don't mind. I can look back at
100%.
things a couple of years back, like the SARS epidemic. Very,
Sure.
very similar background, very similar result, very similar turnover time in terms of the spread and just the immediate impact, and how the hospitality industry just rebounded from that. So what I've noticed, just in the last day or two, is also how the conversation, as we, God willing, approach the end of this lockdown, has very much kind of shifted to looking at that light at the end of the tunnel. And I am fortunate enough that I work with enough responsible employers that they dig the well before they are thirsty. If you can follow what I mean by that, meaning that contingencies are always in place for disaster management. And just to kind of elaborate and take that a step further, that is also something that I've taken from this, and I think that the industry as a whole will forever be changed, but in a lot of ways, in a very positive and uplifting manner, especially in terms of just going back to basics really is what it is. Like I said, a renewed focus on health and safety and hygiene, a renewed focus on relationships with your staff, with your clientele, going back to those basics. And I can almost consider this kind of a soft reboot. And I think the long-term effect is going to outweigh these short-term effects that we feel now, that we think, oh, we can't come back from this. Man, hospitality is tough, but the only thing tougher than hospitality are hospitality professionals. So this is what I'm taking from this for now.
So we are definitely bouncing back after this pandemic has, I think, flatlined, or we've flattened the curve a little bit, like the president said, and then we will be back bigger and better than ever before.
Well, these things take time, but industry analysts, Bernstein and Skift and so forth, they've attempted to just predict the effect on the global industry, noting that within their estimations, a decline of between 11 and 29%. So if you look at that in terms of annual revenue, now this is, of course, over the next 2 months.
It's incremental then.
It is very much. And also their projections do predict basically a near complete bounce back by 2021. So, they, like I say, the focus is shifting from initial shock and disaster management to basically, okay, cool, we've done this now, we're aware of it. How do we go forward? And that's the positive part. That's hospitality.
Okay, no, that sounds quite informed. Caval, I'm going to switch to my next question. I just want to think, what are some of the questions and concerns that your clients and candidates have had prior and now during the lockdown period? Meaning, once the president announced that Thursday there would be a nationwide lockdown at 12 o'clock at midnight, your clients and candidates must have gotten in touch with you and told you about the things that they were the most worried about. Could you maybe enlighten us about some of those things?
Again, I want to point to the oftentimes overlooked professionalism of the players in my industry, because even before that was put in effect, I had many communications from clients of mine indicating, lock.
So they expected it from international trends or something, because obviously we've known about this from December, and it's slowly gone across to Europe and to America as well. So they anticipated a similar lockdown to be imposed on South Africa.
Yeah, well, they did foreshadow the president's proclamation by, I think the earliest were maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I want to give a big up to to those clients as well. Just really highlighting the fact that they have that finger on the global pulse, and that even without a proclamation being made, certain new guidelines were put in place. Measures, yes, as well, in order to just protect their people and their clientele and their visitors. So that definitely did come, and from that point on, it was very much up to me to communicate this across the board to candidates, to all the relevant people in my sphere who depend on me for a certain service or assistance. And so I think even well before that proclamation was made, quite a few of my connections had already begun to implement these safety measures and just general protocol.
And if you look at your candidates, maybe someone who's he was in the process of maybe accepting a new offer, or maybe he was very unhappy in his current position. What were some of the thoughts or questions that they raised with you?
Mm. Well, uh, this is really the meat and potato of it, and this is the tough one. Because look, there's no point in denying reality. And it was even in my situation, I had no less than four. This is just in the interest of being open and transparent here. I had four candidates, recent placements, brand new in their jobs, excited and motivated, um, come back to me and say, "Look, Caval, we've been retrenched, and that sucks. That is the worst thing. Starting a new job, and
Immediately being
the last
retrenched.
in and the first out.
Mm.
But like I said, being able to work with responsible employers, this is not by any means the nail in the coffin in terms of their journey together. All four of these candidates had been advised that they are keeping their details, they are keeping in touch with me, and that as soon as this general lockdown is over and they reassess, that they will be in touch with those guys again. And similarly, it's professional pride and responsibility for me to stay in touch with them, because this does not take away from the fact that those people were employed in positions that there was a need for. There was a need for their skill to be applied in this field. And what I think what we might kind of deviate from, because we all respect the doctors and the nurses and all of those guys that they're on the front line. They're powering that effort, right there. But while they're on the front line, our guys are in the engine room. They powering the ship. I'm talking about contract cleaners, contract caterers. Those guys, they no less essential than anyone else. And maybe as the hotel thing goes down, the other side of it goes up. And there's always going to be that balance between the two. You understand? So
Yeah.
it's by no means like the end of the line, all of that. I do believe it will come out of this better and stronger and more equipped than ever. But in the meantime, it's to keep also in touch with each other, keep those relationships alive, and keep looking out for each other.
Okay, great. Now, Caval, we've talked about it very briefly, but how do you expect hotels and restaurants to recover when things go back to normal Friday, the 18th of April? Have they given you any indication of their plans going forward? I know that you did mention some of your clients will stay in touch with the recently retrenched candidates, but any other insights?
That one, yes, God willing, we will get some detailed feedback and insight as and when that develops. So with some of those guys, we are in a bit of a holding pattern now. But at the same time, with certain contacts that I do have there, they've asked me to keep the door open for some of those key roles, which I am still sourcing for and looking for. Because like I mentioned prior, the fact of the matter is, when it turns around, those skills are still going to be necessary. Those skills
Yeah.
shortages, they're not going to. It's not going to become non-essential or non-existent. It's going to come back. So
The
while we
need might
are in
even
a
be
holding,
greater.
it will definitely take time. This is not an overnight thing, but by no means are those skills now redundant.
Or
It
obsolete,
will,
yeah.
yes.
Okay. Um, so if I can ask you, Caval, what are you and the recruiters of Foodie Recruitment proactively doing to stay relevant during the lockdown? Like, how is Foodie adding relevant value in the hospitality industry and in recruitment in general?
Okay.
Maybe we
Well,
can start off with what you are doing personally. How are you structuring your day? What are the things that you do? How do you make contact with your candidates and clients?
uh, it's actually quite funny that you should mention that, because we a few weeks back, you and I did this video on the on the importance of relationships,
Relationships.
creating,
Yes.
maintaining, and so forth, and sustaining. And it's the darndest thing where, in terms of my online profile, I've seen a massive increase in terms of people reaching out to me, people going back
In
on
a better
old
way.
content.
Are people
Absolutely.
actually they're taking the video knowledge that you shared with them, how to properly introduce yourself, building a relationship, being honest, and they're using that not only in this lockdown period but prior to that to try and build a relationship with you, a proper recruiter in the correct way. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So I have, and I'm not going to say you and I should take a credit for that. I mean, it is kind of a thing that most people would do, but it's just funny how much more engagement I've gotten on that specific old link that we posted, which was just kind of there, and all of a sudden it became a quite a popular thing on one of my profiles, and and then just in general, people reaching out, because just to recap for anyone who has not actually seen it, we talk about and we kind of prefaced this situation, believe it or not, big up John, uh, and the fact that if there are people sitting at home and so forth, take this time and work on those relationships, reach out again, update your CVs, go and look at how what might be missing, what you haven't added, where you can kind of flesh out on certain things to sell yourself, not just to an agent, but in the industry in general, and look at how you can also develop yourself in this time. So I think what I have seen is just that I have seen a lot of people be quite proactive in this approach. Yeah, hospitality kids, we can't really sit still. So I'm glad people are taking this initiative in this time, and just to kind of go back to the meat of your question there, the fact that yes, I think me and all of my colleagues have made it crystal clear that we are not sitting down, we are not just quietly laying back and waiting for this to blow over, because there's no point in sticking your head in the sand and not, or just trying to ride it out. So what we do is we engage. Last night I was fortunate enough to make a new connection with a lady online who's kind of incentivized candidates. I won't go into the detail of that specifically, but offering my service in terms of helping to coach the people that she's approaching, on resume tips, interview tips, and these kinds of things. And these are these little value-added services that I think sometimes get overlooked when people think recruitment or staffing agency or all of that. And I tell you, one thing that to me is also very apparent, that I don't think we've really touched on yet, is the fact that when the need arises again to fill these roles and all of that, human resources are going to be pressed and they're going to be tasked. And this might be a bit of a stretch, but I believe it, and I believe that recruitment in this time, especially, to be just as essential, for the success of businesses going forward. So that is what we are doing. We're staying in touch with our clients. We're updating them. We're putting it out there that we are here to assist, provide you with quality people, skilled people, the right fit, in a time when HR is going to be tied up with
Completely swamped with
10,000
more
other
important things to
things.
do.
Well, similarly important, sure, but just other key aspects, that could take away from their time, when we can do that, in their
For them
stead.
on their behalf. Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, the employees of Fourier, I think we are very fortunate to be in a position that we can remotely assist clients, I think, almost exactly the same way that we would be able to do it in the office. So I think that is a really a thing to be grateful for, that I've seen so many people on LinkedIn and on Twitter and on Facebook that are saying they are so bored at their homes. And if I take myself, I work every single day, and when I walk downstairs after my day of work, I'm tired. I can't do anything else, So it is really great to be at a company that can assist. So if they look after us as employees in that fashion, I'm sure that you as the recruiters do the same towards your candidates and your clients.
Well, yeah, thanks, John. And yes, I do echo that sentiment very much. And it's not just about sitting at home and making calls and all of that. So we looked at the one side of the equation whereby I told you about these retrenchments. On the other
Yes.
side of the coin, yesterday afternoon, I got invites for 3 Skype interviews today for an urgent role that needs to be filled. You understand? So things are not grinding to a halt. Things are being reassessed and approached in another manner. I think the impact of this, like I said, is going to be long lasting, but in my opinion, it's going to change things for the better. Because there's so much to learn and so much to take from this, and there's been so much planning and altering done on the fly that when we actually do come out on the other side and we can probably take a step back, there's just going to be a lot for us to take and to implement and just grow from this.
I completely agree with you. If I think about that saying that says, could that meeting have been a Skype call? So I think this pandemic and everyone being at home will teach us that remote work or being able to call into a meeting, whether it be Skype or Zoom or MS Teams or anything of that nature, is a real viable option instead of getting in your car, driving to Sandton, spending 2 hours in traffic just to have a 30-minute meeting that was basically pointless. So I think there will be lots of positives that we will have to look for, but we will be able to carry through after the pandemic and the lockdown ceases.
Yeah, I think in terms of maybe a practical example that I want to put out there is I do see, just as a side note, I don't want to dig too deep into this, but I do see in the future even us moving towards more of a home-based delivery system. And just like I said, a lot of health and safety upgrades and new implementation across the board in terms of just providing that kind of a service. It's gonna force us to reassess and adjust and approach things in a different way. And to me personally, that's the exciting part of it. That's the part to look forward to. By no means is this the end. It's just the end of one part. It's just the end of this chapter.
The end of conventional thinking.
Yes, I like that.
Okay, I'm happy you like it. Okay, Caval, so I'd like to end off with, I think some of these points that you might bring to light are things that we will take for granted. But what are some of the things or the advice that you could give client or candidates that are stuck at home and uncertain about their immediate futures? How would you reassure them that everything will, within time, go back to normal?
Well, just I cannot personally, or I cannot guarantee that to them, but I can only encourage people to be proactive and take the steps that we've discussed in order to make sure that you get out there. The one thing that's going to be the same though is it's still going to be a competitive job market. Coming back in. So with that said, though, it's again just up to us to adapt and to see how we can go about engaging people in this line of work in terms of representation and reaching out. Like I've said
And maybe
before,
one of the sorry, Caval.
Hmm?
Caval, sorry, maybe one of the new interview questions will be, what did you do during the lockdown? And you would have to have learned a new skill, read 2 books by Herman Melville. Who knows? You know what I mean?
Tested a few recipes. Yeah. Yeah, give me your 21-day lockdown special 5-course degustation menu. But no, I think in terms of just a reboot, I think this is an exciting time for candidates to level that playing field in terms of entering the job market or remaining relevant and in the job market. I think if you have been worrying about these kinds of things, these are the kind of stuff and the kind of measures and that you should have taken and questions that you should have asked yourself. And the cool part is it's not too late. It's never too late. Yeah, so I would still encourage people to get in touch. I don't know if you can link descriptions.
Yes, I'll put everything in the description below our LinkedIn and our website details with our email address and all of those normal particulars or call to actions, they call them. But yeah, I think I'm going to end off the discussion at that point. But Caval, I really want to thank you for joining in. It was a pleasure as always talking to you. I think we've done exactly the same thing, just in a different location that we do in the office.
Good stuff. Okay, but thanks for the call, John. Yeah, take care, and God willing, we'll see you in what, 8 days?
Yeah, definitely. I think every one of us will be back at the office on Friday for a normal day, and then I shall see you then.
Cool, man.
If not earlier.
Cool. Take it easy, John.
Thanks, Caval. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Okay, so I just want to end off the video by showing you the Fourier Recruitment website, and we have two sections that are quite viable for all candidates. So first is our searching of vacancies, and as you can see, we've got about 30 vacancies that are currently open, and our clients are interviewing via Skype and Zoom, and they are sending assessments for some of these positions for the candidates to complete. So by no means think that there is nothing that you can do in your spare time during the lockdown period. The next thing that you can do is you can send your CV to us by building your own profile online. So I would definitely advise you guys to take a few minutes, open your CV on one side, and then open the CV builder on the other side of your monitor, and then effectively just build your profile. And then you are able to apply for any one of the positions that are advertised on our website immediately, and which will also give you preference as compared to applying through PNET or Career Junction. So that's it. I'll leave all the details in the description of the video once it's finished uploading to YouTube. So I just want to thank everyone for joining in, and I wish you all the best and have a good Easter. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.